I never told him, because I thought he wanted us gone. Emma Brooks tightened her grip on her 6-year-old son's small hand as they waited outside the crowded elementary school in Queens. The chilly October wind carried fallen leaves across the sidewalk, but neither mother nor child noticed. Noah looked up at her with warm hazel eyes and smiled, unaware that across the street, inside the back seat of a black luxury sedan, the only man who had ever truly owned Emma's heart had just seen the little boy for the first time. Gabriel Moretti lowered the tinted window without realizing his hand had begun to tremble. At 41, Gabriel ruled one of New York's most powerful criminal empires hidden beneath a network of international shipping companies, luxury hotels, and billion-dollar logistics firms. Tall, broad-shouldered, with neatly combed black hair, a perfectly trimmed beard, and sharp gray eyes that revealed nothing to enemies, he had built a reputation as a man incapable of mercy. Politicians respected him, businessmen feared disappointing him, and rival organizations rarely survived challenging the Moretti name. Yet, in that single moment all the power he possessed became meaningless. Because the little boy standing beside Emma had his eyes. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from. Subscribe and stay until the end. What Gabriel discovers will expose a betrayal that stole 6 years from a father who never knew his own son existed. A light rain began falling across Manhattan as Gabriel's convoy pulled away from another exhausting board meeting. Normally, he ignored everything outside the reinforced windows of his vehicle, reviewing contracts or security reports while the city blurred past. But traffic near Queens Elementary forced the convoy to stop longer than expected. That was when he saw her. Emma Brooks. 6 years had passed since the woman he once planned to marry disappeared from his life. She was 32 now, still beautifully curvy with a soft, full figure that reflected warmth rather than extravagance. Her chestnut hair rested in a loose braid over one shoulder, while gentle brown eyes carried the quiet strength of someone who had survived countless disappointments without allowing bitterness to change her heart. She wore an inexpensive beige coat, comfortable shoes, and carried 2 worn grocery bags balanced against one hip. Nothing about her suggested wealth, yet everything about the way she smiled at the little boy beside her suggested something far richer. Gabriel hadn't seen that smile since the night she left him. Years earlier, Emma had worked as a pastry chef inside one of Moretti Hospitality's flagship hotels. She had loved creating desserts because, as she once told Gabriel, sweet things reminded people that difficult days eventually ended. Their relationship had remained hidden from the public for nearly 2 years. She knew the dangers surrounding his world, while Gabriel believed protecting her meant keeping their love secret until he could leave the criminal side of the family business forever. Then everything collapsed. Anonymous photographs had appeared showing Gabriel embracing another woman during what looked like an intimate evening. Before Emma could confront him, she received a handwritten letter supposedly signed by Gabriel himself. "Leave New York. Our relationship was a mistake. My family has already chosen someone more suitable." The letter shattered her. Gabriel, meanwhile, returned from a week overseas to discover Emma had resigned from the hotel, vacated her apartment, changed her phone number, and vanished without leaving a single explanation. Every search failed. Private investigators found nothing. Eventually, even Gabriel's most loyal security chief admitted defeat. He spent years believing Emma had simply stopped loving him. Now she stood less than 30 yards away. And beside her walked a child whose every movement pulled Gabriel's attention like an invisible thread. The boy couldn't have been older than 6. Thick black hair curled slightly above his forehead despite the rain. His cheeks still carried the softness of childhood, but his posture was strangely familiar. When another student accidentally bumped into him, Noah instinctively stepped in front of his mother instead of behind her. The protective instinct. Every Moretti man learned it naturally. Gabriel frowned. Coincidence. Nothing more. Until Noah laughed. A tiny crescent-shaped scar appeared beneath his left eyebrow. Gabriel's heartbeat stopped. Every firstborn son in the Moretti family had been born with that same small birthmark for 4 generations. His grandfather. His father. Gabriel himself. The rain outside seemed to disappear. His breathing became shallow as memories crashed together with impossible speed. 6 years. Emma disappeared 6 years ago. The boy looked. 6. Marco Duca, Gabriel's longtime head of security, noticed the unusual silence from the back seat. "Boss?" Gabriel never answered. He continued staring through the rain-covered window while Emma knelt to zip Noah's jacket. The little boy wrapped both arms around her neck before whispering something that made her laugh softly. It wasn't simply affection. It was the effortless trust shared only between a mother and the child she had raised alone. Gabriel suddenly remembered the exact date Emma disappeared. 6 years. 3 months. Exactly the same amount of time a 6-year-old child would have been alive. His pulse thundered inside his ears. No. The word escaped before he realized he had spoken aloud. Marco looked toward the school. What is it? Gabriel's eyes never left the child. For the first time in his life, the man feared by an entire empire felt genuine terror. Not because someone wanted to kill him, but because one impossible question had just entered his mind. What if Emma hadn't disappeared alone? Gabriel remained motionless long after Emma and the little boy disappeared through the school gates. Outside, traffic resumed its endless rhythm, impatient drivers leaned on their horns and pedestrians hurried beneath umbrellas, but inside the armored sedan, silence settled like stone. Marco Duca had worked beside Gabriel Moretti for nearly 20 years. At 48, the former Special Forces officer possessed broad shoulders, close-cropped silver hair, and the calm discipline of a man who never panicked before danger. He had watched Gabriel survive assassination attempts, betrayals and bloody wars without allowing emotion to reach his face. He had never seen him look like this. "Boss," Marco said quietly, "should I follow them?" Gabriel answered without taking his eyes off the empty sidewalk. "Yes." His voice sounded unfamiliar. "Don't let them see you." The convoy pulled away slowly while one unmarked SUV remained behind. Marco immediately assigned 2 trusted surveillance officers, instructing them to observe only. No contact. No questions. No mistakes. Gabriel leaned back against the leather seat and closed his eyes. 6 years earlier, Emma Brooks had disappeared without a single goodbye. At first, he had believed someone had kidnapped her. Then he assumed she had grown tired of living in the shadows of his dangerous world. Eventually, after months of searching every city where she might have gone, he convinced himself she had simply chosen another life. It had nearly destroyed him. For almost 2 years after Emma vanished, Gabriel refused every proposal his family presented. Wealthy socialites, influential businesswomen, daughters of powerful allies. He declined them all without explanation. His mother often reminded him that a Moretti heir required a suitable wife, but Gabriel had buried himself in expanding the family's legitimate businesses instead of rebuilding his personal life. Work became easier than grief. Until today. Now every memory returned with unbearable clarity. Emma laughing while dusting flour across his expensive suit inside the hotel kitchen. Emma insisting that every birthday cake deserved one tiny imperfection because perfect things don't feel real. Emma placing his hand over her heartbeat one rainy evening and whispering that home wasn't a place. It was the person who made silence feel safe. Gabriel opened his eyes. If Noah truly belonged to him, then Emma had carried their child alone for 6 years. The thought tightened around his chest until breathing became difficult. Across Queens, Emma unlocked the modest apartment she rented above a neighborhood bookstore. The building was old enough that every staircase creaked beneath careful footsteps, and the hallway smelled faintly of coffee drifting upward from the cafe below. The apartment itself contained only 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, second-hand furniture, and shelves crowded with handmade cakes waiting for weekend customers. It wasn't luxurious, but it was filled with warmth. Noah dropped his backpack near the door before running toward the kitchen. "Mom? I'm hungry." Emma laughed softly. "When aren't you hungry?" She kissed the top of his head before opening the refrigerator. Noah Moretti, though he had never known that surname, was 6 years old with thick black hair, curious hazel gray eyes, and the fearless confidence of a child who believed his mother could solve every problem in the world. He loved astronomy, dinosaurs, and baking chocolate cookies on Saturday mornings. His teachers often joked that he looked unusually serious for someone so young, but the seriousness always disappeared whenever Emma smiled at him. She had raised him with one promise. He would never feel unwanted. Never. While Noah colored pictures at the dining table, Emma quietly prepared homemade vegetable soup, mentally calculating next month's bills. Her small cake business had grown slowly through word of mouth. Weddings, birthdays, school events, every order mattered. Some months were comfortable. Others forced her to work until 2 in the morning decorating cakes while Noah slept beside the kitchen on a small couch because childcare cost more than she could afford. She never complained. Every exhausted night ended the same way. She looked at Noah and remembered why she kept going. At sunset, Marco's encrypted report arrived on Gabriel's private tablet. Subject: Emma Brooks. Residence verified. Occupation: owner of Brooks Bakery Studio. No criminal record. No known romantic relationships. No husband. No engagement. Lives alone with child. Gabriel read the report twice. Then a third time. No husband. No father listed. His stomach tightened. Another message appeared moments later. Child, Noah Brooks. Date of birth. Gabriel stared at the screen. His fingers slowly curled into fists. The birthday matched almost perfectly. Exactly 8 months after Emma disappeared. The numbers refused to lie. That evening, Gabriel entered the private archive beneath Moretti headquarters. Only a handful of people knew the room existed. Floor-to-ceiling shelves contained every confidential document connected to the family's business, security operations, and personal investigations. He walked directly toward one locked cabinet. Inside rested a worn brown folder. Emma Brooks. The investigation had officially ended 5 years earlier. Gabriel opened it carefully. Photographs. Bank statements. Witness interviews. Hotel employment records. Airport surveillance. Nothing. Nothing had ever explained why she vanished. Until one folded envelope slipped from the back of the file. His heartbeat slowed. He had never seen it before. The envelope carried no stamp. No address. Only 3 handwritten words. For Mr. Moretti. Gabriel unfolded the yellowed paper. His expression changed instantly. The letter wasn't from Emma. It had been intercepted years earlier before it ever reached him. Gabriel, I'm leaving because I have no choice. I wanted to tell you about our baby in person, but after receiving your letter, I understand you don't want either of us. I won't force our child into a life where his father already rejected him. I hope one day he grows into a kinder man than the world allowed us to become. I'll always love you, even if you never loved us enough to stay. Emma. Gabriel read the words again. Then again. His hands began trembling. I never wrote that letter. He whispered into the empty room. Someone had. Someone had sent Emma a fake letter pretending to be him. Someone had hidden Emma's real letter before it reached him. Someone hadn't merely ended a relationship. They had stolen 6 years from a father and a son. Gabriel slowly looked toward the security camera mounted in the corner of the archive. For the first time in years, anger wasn't directed toward a rival family. It was directed toward someone much closer. Someone inside his own world. For the first time in more than a decade, Gabriel Moretti canceled every meeting scheduled for the following morning. Executives waited inside polished boardrooms overlooking Manhattan. Foreign investors flew across the Atlantic expecting negotiations worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and government officials requested urgent calls regarding one of Moretti Logistics' newest shipping contracts. Normally, Gabriel never allowed personal matters to interfere with business. This time he ignored them all. One question mattered more than every empire he had built. Who had stolen 6 years from his son? Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from. Subscribe and stay until the end. The truth Gabriel uncovers will reveal that the greatest enemy was never outside the Moretti family. It had been sitting beside him all along. The private conference room beneath Moretti headquarters remained locked long before sunrise. Only 4 people sat around the walnut table. Gabriel. Marco Duca. Victor Ramirez, the family's cybersecurity director. And Charles Whitmore, the Moretti family's chief attorney. Victor was 37, lean, sharp-eyed, and rarely displayed emotion. Before joining the Moretti organization, he had spent nearly a decade investigating corporate cybercrime for a federal contractor. If digital evidence existed, Victor usually found it. Charles, now 68, had represented the Moretti family for over 25 years. Calm, silver-haired, and painfully meticulous, he had watched Gabriel grow from an impulsive young man into one of New York's most respected businessmen. Gabriel placed Emma's intercepted letter onto the table. I've never seen this before. Silence followed. Marco picked it up first. His jaw tightened. This was addressed to you. Gabriel nodded. It never reached me. Victor immediately requested access to the archive's security history. Within minutes, dozens of digital records covered the large monitor. The archive itself had remained untouched. But 6 years earlier, someone with executive-level authorization had entered the document system. Only one confidential file had been modified. Emma Brooks. Victor enlarged the log. There. His finger stopped over a single entry. User access, Marcus Bellini. Nobody spoke. Marcus Bellini. Gabriel's cousin. 46 years old. Elegant. Educated. Respected. The polished public face of Moretti Holdings. Unlike Gabriel, Marcus preferred charity galas over underground negotiations. Newspapers praised him as sophisticated, generous, and diplomatic. Investors admired his calm leadership, and politicians frequently invited him to fundraising events. To the outside world, Marcus looked like the perfect Moretti heir. Gabriel stared at the screen. Years earlier, before Emma entered his life, Marcus had quietly suggested introducing Gabriel to influential women from powerful families. Gabriel always refused. Then Emma disappeared. Marcus stopped asking. The realization settled slowly. If Gabriel had married Emma, any future child would inherit the Moretti empire. Marcus would lose everything he secretly hoped to control. Marco finally broke the silence. You think he forged your letter? Gabriel answered without hesitation. No. He looked directly at Victor. I think he forged both. Across Queens, life continued without any knowledge of the storm gathering around Emma. Saturday mornings always belonged to Noah. The 6-year-old sat on a wooden stool inside the bakery while Emma carefully measured flour into a mixing bowl. Not too much. Noah laughed. I know. You always say that. Emma smiled. And you always forget. Together they kneaded dough exactly the way she had taught him since he was old enough to stand on a chair. Customers often arrived early simply to watch them work together. Mrs. Eleanor Harris, an elderly retired schoolteacher with kind blue eyes and silver curls tucked beneath a knitted hat, had become one of the bakery's most loyal customers. She accepted her usual cinnamon rolls before smiling at Noah. You'll be taller than your mama soon. No way, Noah answered proudly. I'm staying little forever. The entire bakery laughed. Emma watched her son with quiet gratitude. She didn't need expensive vacations. She didn't need luxury. Every smile Noah gave her reminded her she had made the right choice, even if it meant raising him alone. Several blocks away, 2 unfamiliar men watched through the windshield of a gray sedan. Neither looked toward the pastries. Neither spoke. One lifted a phone. We found the boy. Back at headquarters, Victor uncovered another disturbing discovery. Boss. Gabriel walked closer. Victor replayed security footage recorded 6 years earlier. The hotel lobby. Emma leaving work. Marcus arriving only minutes later. Another angle appeared. Marcus handed an envelope to the receptionist. The receptionist later delivered that same envelope to Emma. Timestamp. Confirmed. Marcus had personally delivered the forged letter. Gabriel felt every muscle tighten. Charles removed his glasses slowly. I knew Marcus disliked the relationship. He looked ashamed. I never imagined. Gabriel interrupted quietly. He destroyed my family. No one argued. That afternoon, Marco received an emergency call. One of the surveillance officers assigned to Emma sounded unusually tense. Sir. We've got movement. What kind? Black SUV. No plates. They've been circling the bakery 3 times. Marco's expression hardened instantly. He looked toward Gabriel. They're watching Emma. Gabriel stood immediately. Move. The convoy reached Queens less than 12 minutes later. Rain had begun falling again, covering narrow streets with shimmering reflections. Emma locked the bakery early because Noah wanted to visit the nearby park before dinner. Holding his mother's hand, the little boy skipped happily across the sidewalk carrying a paper bag filled with warm cookies. He never noticed the black SUV rolling slowly behind them. Inside sat 4 armed men. Their orders were simple. Take the child. Leave no witnesses. The rear door opened before the vehicle fully stopped. Everything happened at once. One masked man rushed toward Noah. Emma instinctively pulled her son behind her. What are you doing? The man ignored her. Another reached for Noah's arm. The little boy screamed. Emoam. Emma shoved the attacker with surprising strength. Noah. Run. Before the child could move, a deafening engine roared across the intersection. 3 armored black SUVs skidded sideways, completely blocking the street. Doors burst open. Moretti security. Marco emerged first. Weapons already drawn. Down. The kidnappers froze. Then gunfire erupted. Pedestrians scattered in every direction. Windows exploded. Cars screeched to a halt. Emma dropped over Noah, shielding his small body beneath her own while bullets shattered the bakery window behind them. She had no idea who these men were. She knew only one thing. Nobody would touch her son. Gabriel stepped from the lead vehicle. Come. Unmoving. His tailored charcoal coat fluttered in the rain as chaos surrounded him. His gray eyes never looked toward the gunman. They looked only at one terrified little boy crying beneath his mother's arms. For a single heartbeat, Gabriel forgot the shooting, forgot the empire, forgot the danger. All he saw was his son. The rain continued pouring across Queens long after the gunfire ended. Police sirens echoed through the surrounding streets, but by the time the first patrol cars arrived, the attackers had either been captured by Moretti security or disappeared into the maze of narrow alleyways. Shattered glass covered the sidewalk outside Emma's bakery, and frightened neighbors peeked through apartment windows, trying to understand why armed men had suddenly transformed their quiet neighborhood into a battlefield. Emma knelt on the wet pavement, wrapping both arms around Noah so tightly that neither of them noticed the cold. Her entire body trembled. Not because she had almost died. Because for one horrifying moment, she had believed she was about to lose the only person she had left in the world. Noah buried his face against her shoulder, crying so hard that he struggled to breathe. "I'm here," Emma whispered over and over, gently stroking his damp black hair. "I'm here, sweetheart. Mommy's here." Several feet away, Gabriel watched silently. The most feared man in New York had stood in the middle of countless gunfights without feeling fear. Yet seeing a masked stranger reach for Noah had frozen his blood. Because every instinct inside him had screamed the same truth. Protect your son. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from. Subscribe and stay until the end. Emma is about to discover the truth Gabriel has carried in silence, while Noah unknowingly takes his first steps toward the father he never knew existed. Dr. Ethan Wallace arrived less than 15 minutes later. The Moretti family's longtime physician was 62, calm, silver-haired, and known for remaining remarkably composed even during emergencies. After carefully examining Noah, he smiled reassuringly. "No injuries. Just shock." Emma finally allowed herself to breathe. She kissed Noah's forehead again before thanking the doctor. Only then did she notice Gabriel standing a short distance away. Rain had soaked his charcoal overcoat, yet he hadn't moved. His gray eyes never left Noah. Emma slowly stood. 6 years had changed them both. The young hotel owner she once loved had become an even more powerful man, but there was something unfamiliar in his expression now. Regret. Raw. Unhidden. Neither spoke for several long seconds. Finally, Gabriel broke the silence. "Are you both safe?" Emma nodded quietly. "Yes." She expected him to leave. Instead, he stepped closer. "The men who attacked your son." His voice became lower. "They weren't robbers." Emma frowned. "What do you mean?" Gabriel hesitated. This wasn't how he wanted her to learn. But after what had happened, hiding the truth was no longer possible. They were looking for him. Emma instinctively pulled Noah closer. "Why?" Gabriel looked into her eyes. "Because someone believes he's my son." The world seemed to stop. Rain continued falling. Sirens continued wailing. But Emma heard nothing. Her breathing caught inside her chest. She stared at Gabriel without blinking. "You." Her voice barely existed. "No." Gabriel slowly nodded. "I know." Tears immediately filled Emma's eyes. Not tears of relief. Tears of 6 years of loneliness crashing into a single impossible moment. "You knew." She shook her head. "And you never came." Gabriel closed his eyes. "I found out yesterday." Emma stared at him in disbelief. He reached into his coat and carefully unfolded the faded letter she had written years earlier. The edges had yellowed with time. She recognized it instantly. "My letter. It never reached me." Gabriel's voice cracked for the first time. "I never rejected you. I never wrote the letter you received." Emma's hands began trembling as she unfolded the forged letter Gabriel had recovered from the archive. Every sentence she had memorized through years of heartbreak suddenly looked different. The signature. The handwriting. Tiny details she had never questioned. Because grief had wanted to believe them. "No." She whispered. "No." Gabriel took one slow step forward. "I searched for you. For almost 2 years. I hired investigators. I thought you left because you stopped loving me." Emma's tears spilled freely now. "I thought." She struggled to finish. "I thought you didn't want our baby." For a moment neither moved. 6 stolen years stood silently between them. Then Noah looked up from his mother's arms. His hazel-gray eyes shifted curiously toward Gabriel. "Mom? Why are you crying?" Emma quickly wiped her face. "I'm okay." Noah studied Gabriel with innocent curiosity. "Were you one of the men who saved us?" Gabriel knelt until they were eye level. "Yes." The little boy smiled shyly. "Thank you." Gabriel's heart broke. His own son. Thanking him. Like a stranger. That evening, Moretti headquarters became the center of an emergency security operation. Victor Ramirez projected satellite maps across the conference room. The kidnappers belonged to the Romano family. Marco crossed his arms. They were paid anonymously. Victor zoomed into another screen. The payment originated through offshore accounts. Gabriel didn't need to ask. He already suspected who stood behind everything. Marcus Bellini. But suspicion wasn't enough. He needed proof. Meanwhile, Emma packed a small suitcase inside her apartment. Broken windows made staying there impossible. Marco quietly approached. The neighborhood isn't safe anymore. Emma looked toward Noah sleeping peacefully on the worn sofa. What are you suggesting? Marco answered honestly. The Moretti estate. Emma immediately shook her head. No. I can't. Marco understood. She wasn't refusing luxury. She was refusing memories. The memories of loving Gabriel. The memories of believing he had abandoned her. The memories of raising Noah alone. Before Marco could respond, Noah sleepily opened his eyes. Mom? Are we going home? Emma forced a smile. We'll find somewhere safe. The little boy looked toward Gabriel standing silently near the doorway. Then something unexpected happened. Noah walked over. He reached into his small backpack, pulled out one of the chocolate chip cookies he had baked that morning, and held it toward Gabriel. My mom says sharing makes people feel better. You look sad. Gabriel stared at the tiny cookie in the little hand before him. Nobody in years had offered him something expecting nothing in return. His throat tightened. Slowly, carefully. He accepted it. Thank you. Noah grinned proudly. They're my favorite. Emma watched silently. She had seen Noah share toys. She had seen him comfort classmates. But watching her son unknowingly comfort his own father felt almost unbearable. Gabriel looked toward Emma. I know I don't deserve your trust. I know I missed 6 years I'll never get back. His voice remained calm, but every word carried quiet pain. But I won't lose him again. I won't let either of you face this alone. Emma looked at Noah. Then at the shattered bakery. Then at the armed security officers protecting the street. For the first time since becoming a mother, she admitted something she had refused to acknowledge. Love wasn't the danger anymore. The danger was believing she could protect Noah by herself. After several long moments, she quietly nodded. Only until Noah is safe. Gabriel didn't smile. He simply lowered his head in gratitude. As the convoy disappeared into the Manhattan night, Noah sat beside Gabriel in the back seat, proudly explaining every dinosaur fact he knew while Emma watched through tear-filled eyes. Neither father nor son realized it yet. But somewhere between a homemade cookie and a child's innocent conversation, a family that had been broken for 6 years had quietly begun finding its way back together. The first rays of dawn had barely reached the stone walls of the Moretti estate when Gabriel stood alone in his office, staring at the city stretching beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. New York was waking to another ordinary morning. But nothing inside the mansion felt ordinary. Only 12 hours had passed since Emma and Noah arrived, yet the estate already felt different. The silence that had long haunted the halls had been replaced by something unfamiliar, the sound of a child laughing. Noah had spent half the evening exploring the enormous library, asking endless questions about every antique globe, every old painting, and every sword displayed behind glass cases. Even the guards, men who usually spoke only when necessary, found themselves smiling as the little boy proudly explained why dinosaurs would have made terrible bodyguards. Gabriel had watched quietly from the doorway. Every smile Noah gave him felt like another reminder of everything he had lost, and everything he intended to protect. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from. Subscribe and stay until the end. Because today, Gabriel will discover who stole 6 years from his family, and the price for that betrayal will change the Moretti empire forever. Victor Ramirez hurried into the office carrying a tablet. His normally calm face revealed unusual urgency. We found it. Gabriel looked up. The financial trail? Victor nodded. It leads directly to Marcus. Within minutes, the conference room filled with Gabriel, Marco, Charles, and Victor. Every screen displayed the same conclusion. The offshore accounts funding the kidnapping had originated from shell companies secretly controlled by Marcus Bellini. More disturbing still, Victor had recovered deleted emails from 6 years earlier. Marcus had personally instructed one of the hotel's managers to intercept Emma's handwritten letter before Gabriel ever saw it. Another email confirmed he had hired a private handwriting expert to forge Gabriel's signature. Charles lowered his head in disbelief. For 6 years. He made both of you believe the other had abandoned you. Gabriel said nothing. His jaw tightened until every muscle along his face hardened. He wasn't angry anymore. He was beyond anger. He felt something colder. Justice. Marcus Bellini arrived at Moretti headquarters an hour later, completely unaware that his carefully built lies had collapsed. As always, he wore an expensive navy suit perfectly tailored to his lean frame. His silver-streaked dark hair remained neatly combed, and the charming smile that had impressed politicians and investors for years appeared exactly as polished as ever. He entered Gabriel's office without hesitation. "You wanted to see me?" Gabriel stood beside the window. "Close the door." Marcus obeyed. For several seconds neither man spoke. Then Gabriel slid 2 letters across the desk. Marcus glanced down. His smile disappeared. "You recognize them?" Marcus remained silent. Gabriel stepped closer. "You forged my signature. You intercepted Emma's letter. You stole 6 years from my son." Marcus slowly exhaled. Then, to Gabriel's astonishment, he smiled again. "You were always too emotional." His voice remained perfectly calm. "Had you married that baker, everything our family built would have belonged to a child raised outside this world. I protected the empire." Gabriel's gray eyes darkened. "You destroyed a family." Marcus shrugged. "Families recover. Empires don't." That single sentence ended the conversation. Gabriel nodded once toward Marco. Security officers entered immediately. Marcus finally realized what was happening. "You can't arrest me." Gabriel looked directly into his cousin's eyes. "I'm not." The federal investigators waiting downstairs will. Charles had quietly delivered every piece of evidence to federal authorities an hour earlier. Forgery, kidnapping conspiracy, attempted murder, corporate fraud, money laundering. Marcus's expression finally cracked. "You'd betray your own blood?" Gabriel answered quietly. "You stopped being family 6 years ago." As federal agents escorted Marcus away in handcuffs, employees throughout Moretti headquarters watched in stunned silence. The man many believed would someday lead the company disappeared forever. Weeks passed. The danger slowly faded. The Romano family, deprived of Marcus's financial support, agreed to a permanent ceasefire. For the first time in years, the Moretti empire no longer fought enemies hidden within its own walls. Inside the estate, another kind of healing quietly began. Noah started calling the mansion the castle. Every afternoon he insisted Gabriel help him build enormous cardboard spaceships in the garden. At first, Gabriel awkwardly followed the little boy's endless instructions. He found himself laughing. Really laughing. Emma often watched from the kitchen window while preparing fresh pastries for the household. The mansion slowly filled with familiar smells of warm bread, cinnamon, and vanilla. Servants who once whispered through empty hallways now gathered around Noah's latest adventures. Even Marco became the unwilling audience for dinosaur lectures during breakfast. The estate no longer resembled the fortress it had once been. It finally felt like a home. One spring afternoon, Gabriel asked Emma to walk with him through the estate gardens. Cherry blossoms drifted gently across the stone paths. For several minutes they simply walked. No bodyguards. No business. No fear. Only silence. Finally, Gabriel stopped beside the small lake Isabella had once loved. "I can't give you back 6 years." His voice remained steady. "I'll regret that every day of my life." Emma looked at the water shimmering beneath the afternoon sun. "I lost those years too." Neither blamed the other anymore. They both understood who had truly stolen them. Gabriel reached into his coat. Instead of a ring, he removed a small wooden box. Inside rested every letter Emma had written during their relationship. Marcus had hidden them all. Emma's eyes immediately filled with tears. "I found them." Gabriel smiled sadly. "I wanted your words back where they belonged." Emma carefully held the letters against her heart. For a long moment neither spoke. Then Gabriel gently took her hand. "I don't want to replace the years we lost. I want to build the years we still have." Emma searched his face. The powerful mafia boss she had once loved looked different now. Not weaker. Simply softer. A man who finally understood what truly mattered. She smiled through tears. "I'd like that." Several months later, Moretti Holdings held its annual charity gala. For years, Gabriel had attended alone. This time, he arrived with Emma beside him. No rumors. No secrets. No hiding. When reporters asked who she was, Gabriel answered without hesitation. "This is Emma Brooks. The woman who saved my family. And the woman I love." Then he looked toward Noah standing proudly between them. "And this is my son." Flashbulbs exploded across the ballroom. But Gabriel noticed only one thing. Noah had quietly slipped his small hand into his father's. He didn't let go. A year later, beneath a clear autumn sky, family and close friends gathered inside the estate gardens. There were no politicians. No business partners. Only the people who truly mattered. Noah proudly carried the wedding rings down the aisle, grinning so widely that everyone laughed when he almost forgot where he was supposed to stop. Emma walked toward Gabriel wearing an elegant ivory gown that reflected her quiet beauty rather than extravagance. When she reached him, Gabriel whispered the words he had waited 6 years to say. "I'm finally home." Emma smiled. "So are we." As applause filled the gardens, Noah wrapped both arms around them. For the first time in his life, he stood between his mother and his father. Exactly where he had always belonged. Sometimes life steals years that can never be returned. But when love survives betrayal, loss, and impossible distance, it reminds us that the greatest families are not the ones who never break. They are the ones brave enough to find each other again. If this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments. Do you believe true love can survive 6 years of lies?